How you doing, folks? I've got an interview here with two amazing people. I'm going to introduce you to Holly Werlein-Gary and Tracy Gary. They're married. Holly, I believe 14 years ago, received the gift of life when she received a donor's liver. Tracy received a donor's heart. And then they stole each other's hearts. Transplant recipients, married, and now they've taken it a step further by creating this great organization. It's a house called the Transplant House of Michigan. So, this is what they're doing now. They're raising funds for this organization. Taken right from their website, it says, "We were brought together by organ donation, and we are on a mission to help others through the Transplant House of West Michigan. We understand the cost and the emotional toll it takes on not only patients, but also caregivers and their families." So basically what this boils down to is this house is going to be a place where people who are receiving transplants or family members are going to stay while the patient is getting their organ. Because, that's an incredible cost as they're in the hospital, and then the amount of time in the hospital, the family members are there in the home. If they were to get a hotel or something like that, and the fuel costs that go along with it and the food and things like that, it would all be a tremendous financial burden. So that's why the Transplant House of West Michigan was begun. So we're talking about this all on National Donor Day, being the 14th of February is National Donor Day. And Gift of Life has partnered with your old pal Eric Zane. I am the media ambassador for Gift of Life, and this all happened because of the donation when I gave away my kidney to Jeffrey. So it all kind of works out in a fantastic way. So I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the story of Holly Werlein-Gary and Tracy Gary. Thank you for checking it out. So Holly, I'll start with you. I was reading that you were all of a sudden you're waking up from a surgery. You've got a new liver, correct?
Yeah, mine happened completely different than Tracy's. I actually was going to the Cleveland Clinic. They thought I had MS when I was younger. And so I was going there for like a routine checkup. And previous to that, I wasn't feeling well. I was nauseous, kind of like flu-like symptoms. But my mom and sister noticed that my eyes were yellow. So of course, that's an indication something's wrong. So I ended up going to Cleveland for my follow-up appointment, and they told me that I had to stay there because my liver enzymes were in the 2000s and they're supposed to be in the teens. So I remember about 3 days of being in the hospital, not knowing what was wrong. They were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And then I woke up a week and a half later with a liver transplant and a whole new life. So so I was only on the waiting list for 8 hours.
Right.
Which
is incredibly rare. You because of how debilitated, how in rough shape your liver was.
Yeah.
You were like at the top of the list, and as fate would have it, one became available that quickly. And this is all very important because working with Gift of Life and you guys with the Transplant House, which I cannot wait to talk to you about that. It's absolutely fantastic. This is all so critical, and it's really remarkable to think that you had that happen, and your brain just kind of wiped everything so that you don't have any recollection of that.
Yeah, I mean, I have brief recollections of like some things that have happened, but I guess because my liver was failing so badly, I only had 20% function, so ammonia was building up in my brain, which means that you wouldn't be able to really process anything. So
holy moly. Okay, so that was quite some time ago. And then Gary,
15 years.
Yeah, you've been surviving with that liver for that long. And Gary, 4 or 5 years living with a new heart, is that right?
Yes, it's 4 years on May 5th, 2022.
Okay, so we're coming up on four years. Somebody gave you the gift of life. I was reading that it started out because you had a horrible heart attack, a widowmaker, as I understand it, correct?
Yes, 2013, I had a widowmaker heart attack, and I was in it. I went to my 1 year follow-up, and my cardiologist down in Kalamazoo said, have you ever thought about being on a heart transplant list? And I kind of just looked at him like, no. And he said that when I left the hospital, my EF, which is your ejection fracture, which is the percentage your heart is pumping, was at 25, and in 1 year it dropped down to 15. So he suggested that I go to the up here to Grand Rapids to the transplant clinic.
You oftentimes hear about people that are on a waiting list. Did you have to experience that anguish and anxiety? Tracy?
Yeah, I did. I was on the transplant list for 3 years, and last year I was on it for at the top almost the last year, like 275 days. I was at the top of the list in the state of Michigan for a heart, for my blood type, my body size.
That messes with your brain, I would guess, because when I was talking with my friend Jeffrey, who got my kidney, I mean, there were times he would call me desperate, and I'm like, "Hey, it's okay, everything's going to work out." But I imagine your brain tries to convince you that something bad is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was on it for 3 years, so I had an LVAD pump, which they put in your heart to help get you to the transplant process. And I actually had 3 of those put in. My first 2 clotted, and the third one's what put me at the top of the list. And I mean, going through the LVAD process 3 times, your mind gets conditioned really fast.
Now, and for those who don't know, it's a device that when your blood is leaving your heart, it's going to try to get it up out of there. It's like a turbo.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. I mean, it's the lower left chamber of your heart. They cut a hole in your heart and shove this pump in it, and that's what's giving you your blood supply to your body, oxygenated blood. So I went around for 3 years with no heartbeat because it's a continuous pump. It doesn't beat like the heart. So I had no heartbeat for 3 years.
The battery pack.
Holy cow. Okay.
And you have to walk. I had to walk around with a battery pack attached to my side with a cable going through my stomach that hooked up to the pump in my chest. So
is the process of when they say, okay, it's time to go get a heart, that call could come at any hour of the day. You have to be ready for it, and you have to get to the hospital, correct?
Yes.
Was yours middle of the night, middle of the day? Take me through that.
My family makes fun of me on this one. They said no one else could have done it at Friday at 3:00, get the phone call to where every one of my family members could make it up to the hospital. So it just worked out to where it just happened to be Friday at 3:00. I got the phone call.
And God bless the souls who've saved your lives. I mean, this is, it's one thing to sit there and talk about how you're doing so well, but on the other side of that, that's incredible. And I can only imagine that the families that are involved in that, knowing that those parts of their loved ones are alive and well, and you, has to be incredible. What a feeling,
Yeah. It's very humbling to receive the transplant. I mean, it's I don't know how to describe it. It's a life-changing event. I mean, major,
Have you been able to have any contact? Has anyone reached out to you too?
I've wrote my family twice and haven't heard anything back yet.
I actually got the cool opportunity. I think it was about 4 or 5 years after my transplant. My donor family, I had written through Gift of Life to them, and they actually invited me to their family reunion when I first moved down to Grand Rapids. So I actually got to meet the family. My donor's name was Dale, and I have since have a really close relationship with his daughter and his mom. And I recently just walked, her name's Katie, down the aisle to get married.
Wow.
So it's just, very blessed and grateful I know, to be able to,
Yeah, it's really spectacular. Thank God. Okay, so how you two are married?
Yeah.
Can you take me through? You didn't know each other when Holly, when you were having your health issues, you didn't know Gary. I'm sorry, you didn't know Tracy.
No, because mine happened like 15
Right.
years ago. So I was working at the heart and lung clinic, and he was one of the patients. And I participate in the US and World Transplant Games. So I had actually gotten back from Spain. And I mean, you form like a relationship with patients when you see them like
Yeah.
almost weekly. So I actually moved to a different clinic, and I told them, let me know, if and when you ever get your transplant. And so I went to the other clinic, and then he found me on Facebook, and yeah.
Wow. And then
Yeah.
sparks flew. The next thing you know, you've become these amazing advocates, husband and wife team.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was awesome. Yeah. We went on a what, like a lunch date.
Yeah, we went on a lunch date at
Yep.
the
The
old
old
goat,
goat. Yeah, the old goat in Grand Rapids.
and we've been together every day since, pretty much.
Do you belong to like support groups for people who've received transplant organs and things like that? Is that part of what makes you two tick? Because you're very giving of your time and your efforts. Um, take me through some of the things that you've worked with in the transplant world.
Yeah, because I'm actually from Gaylord. So they have a Northern Michigan transplant support group by Bev Sherwinski up in Gaylord. So when I first had my transplant, obviously I had to live with my parents again to recover. And so that was a really big part of my life in recovery. And then also I've helped online with the waiting list, nonprofit organization, of course, Gift of Life. And then, now we're deciding to give back and do the Transplant House of West Michigan to honor our donors and help other people. So we're really excited to do that.
Some folks who are on donor waiting lists and then they have to travel. There's a
Yeah.
lot of expense and things like that, and it can be a real struggle. And that's where you two decided, hey, I think we want to start Transplant House. Can you fill in all the details for me, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Holly had the dream starting off because when she had traveled 6 hours to Cleveland Clinic,
Yeah.
and they needed somewhere to stay, and hotels cost anywhere from $150 to $200 a night. Even if it's $100 a night, it's you have to spend a week, a month and a half at the hotel. It's very, it's the cost that insurance companies don't cover and nobody thinks about. So my family comes from northern or mid Indiana, Fort Wayne, and that's a 3-hour drive for them. So they also had the same thing. And Renucci House is a wonderful thing that Spectrum Health has. That's similar to a transplant house, but it's more like a hotel.
Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's for all of like
It's for all of
Health and
Spectrum
Helen
Health.
DeVos. Yeah.
And my daughters called on my LVADs and my transplant, and they never got a call back to stay at the Renucci House because it was all full.
Okay.
So they stayed at local hotels and had to foot the bill for that.
So you guys came up with the whole deal, and how long has it been since okay, from the first thought to right now, how long has it been?
Well, if you take 2020 out of it, because we started at the end of 2019, and 2020 we started working on it at the start of 2020, and then COVID happened. So we just stopped everything in 2020 because we didn't know what was going on with the country. No one knew, and we didn't feel right asking for donations with no one knew what was going to happen.
Correct.
So take 2020 out of it. We started in February of 2021.
We got our nonprofit
We got our nonprofit status and got our board set up and started working for donations in June, July of 2021.
Being that National Donor Day on the 14th, the day that this little interview that I'm doing with you is released, and I know that you've had some attention from the local media to discuss this, and working with Gift of Life. I'm looking at mitransplanthouse.org, which is your site. And if you go there, oh my gosh, everything is all set up, including the history of you two, how to donate, volunteer, contact us. All that information is there. A lot of people have an idea about something like this, when something like your life is saved by a transplant, and then
Yeah.
you might have a tendency to like, slough off I mean, heck, I wanted to write a book about donated a kidney, but
Yeah.
you just kind of lose it. You don't to be able to stay with your passion like that is really great, especially in the face of adversity of something like COVID. Yet here you are still doing what you have to do. And that's really, really great.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, we're just trying to give back. And when we actually get the house, I'm gonna donate. A room is gonna be called like Dale's room, to honor my donor,
Okay.
donor family. Yeah.
So is that the quickest, easiest way to help? Folks can go to your site and donate.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be absolutely
Yes.
awesome.
And you can go to the .org. We also bought the domain .com. So you can either type .org or .com. So either one will take you there.
Yeah. Now, of course, all the information will be linked on this posting it. So if anybody wants to help out, I can't say enough about you two. I'm really, really happy for you. I'm happy that you're alive. I'm happy that you're in this world to do this. And it's just great. So kudos to you. And I wish you nothing but success. But I don't want to make it sound like I'm never going to see you again, because I do a lot of work with Gift of Life, and they're wonderful. And I just love those
wonderful
people.
And we couldn't be here if it wasn't for donors like you. I mean,
Yeah. So thank you for being a living donor.
Yeah.
Awesome. You're a hero.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I try to, because I talk about it, but one of the things that I try to focus on is I try to make it seem like for the person who's giving it, it's not that big of a deal. And I say that because I know more people can do this, can be a living donor of something like a kidney. And it's a huge deal for the person who's getting it. You're going to save their life. But, I mean, honestly, I've forgotten that I've given it away. It's such a non-issue for me. And the amazing medical people who make that an easy process for you. And it actually, did you know that people who give kidneys live longer lives in general, just because though they have one less kidney, there's so much good that comes out of it mentally that they actually statistically live longer lives than the average person. Yes, it's absolutely
awesome.
That's awesome.
Wow,
It just shows you what the mind can do.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, all right, I don't know you, but I love you. So how does that sound?
I love you too.
Happy Valentine's Day.
All right. Well, Living Donor Day is big, and I wish you guys nothing but the best, okay?
Thank you, sir, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.